So today we'll talk about if statements in Python, then while loops, talk about list methods, talk about lists, talk about for loops. If there's time, we start with functions. Yes, okay, so I think with day 2, by the time you finish with today's class, you can do a whole lot of things with Python. Okay, so from here, I think let's say 4 sections. After 4 sections, what we'll do is we'll just move straight to data science. Okay. All right. So we start. Okay, so with last week, we looked at some of the inbuilt functions. We said with Python, we have inbuilt functions. In any program language, we have inbuilt function, and we also have the function that the programmer writes by himself. Okay, so that's what is here. That's the function that we'll talk about today if you have time. All right, so last week we talked about the input function, we talked about the input, and we said with any function, this is how we write it. Write the name of the function, then bracket open, bracket close. Then we also talked about the print function in Python. Okay, so we said with the input function, what it does is it takes something inside the bracket open, bracket close. That's it expects something from the user. Okay, so that's the input. Then when we talk about the print actually shows something to the user. So it's an output. So one is input, the print is the output in Python. And we looked at some variables and all. Okay, so with today's class, what we do is we start with an assignment. Okay, so this is an assignment. One popular thing in Ghana is let's say if you are asked of your weight, they say what's your weight, then they will say let's say 20 kg, right? But it's not the weight is not actually measured in kg. It's measured in newtons. Okay, so with weight, for instance, so weight is equal to mass times acceleration. So mass times the 10. Okay, so what the weighing scale measures is the mass, then multiply by 10. Okay, so we are going to use what we learned last week to build an application for users. Okay, and with these users, what they are going to do is anytime they enter their mass to multiply by 10, and to give the person the weight. Okay, so that's the assignment. So I'll pause the recording. I would, if you finish, you can share your screen with me. I think I'll give you, let's say, 2 or 5 minutes before I'll continue. Just write something. So because last week we talked about input, print, variables. These are the 3 things that you use to build this application. So we start. So who was able to finish or did something? Let's say 2 lines or 3 lines of code. Can you share in the group? Okay, so you can share that in the group. But I'm continuing with the class, with the assignment. Okay, so let's talk about the assignment again. So assignment, we said we should allow the user, so allow, let's say, the user to enter his or her mass, then just calculate the weight for the user. All right, so with the first thing that we need to do is just to collect the mass, or we have to know the formula for weight. Okay, so the formula for weight, we've written it here. So the mass times 10. Okay, And we said the mass, what you need to do is just take it from the user. So how do we take something from a user? So what we need to do is just to, let me close this. All right, so we have to create a new file, okay? So this is like, we have to create a new page. So to create a new page, we said you right click on the folder, okay? So that's the folder. You go to new, then you select Python file. Okay. Then you enter the name of the file. So it's weight of user. Weight of user. Okay, then we save. All right, so that's the file. Okay, so that's a file. So what we need to do is just to take something from the user, okay? And we said, last week's class, we said to take something from a user, you just type input, okay? Then bracket open, bracket close. Then what you put inside is the text that you want the user to see, okay? So bracket open, double quote, that's a string. So input your mass, okay? Or what is your mass? You just ask the user, what is your mass? Then question mark. But with this one, we said either you push whatever the user input into a database or you store it into a temporary variable, okay? So we have to store it into a temporary variable because with this one, there's no need of storing it into a database. So mass of user is equal to input this. Then we go to the next line. So the next line, now we have the mass. We have to calculate the weight, okay? So the formula for weight is just this equal to mass times, because last week we talked about the arithmetic operations in Python, times 10. Then we go to the next line. What we need to do is just print the answer to the user, okay? So print bracket open, bracket close, then double quote, your weight is, and we learned in Python that to add two strings, we use the plus sign, that's concatenate, okay? So this is just one of them. What we need to do is we want to add what we call the weight, okay? So we add plus outside the string, the first one. So this is one string. And the second one is what we put here. So your weight is this. And if you want to add, let's say kg, you add plus, then you bring back bracket, double quote, then add kg, okay? So now we have this, but this code won't run. Please, can someone explain to me why it won't run? We talked about it yesterday, the last class. The hint is cast. So this is why the code won't run, okay? So we said with this one, what's the type of this? What's the type? Okay, so in programming, any variable has type and the type should match, okay? So with this one, the type, you remember this comment. So the type is what? A string. Please do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. And with this one, because this is a string, when a string multiplies by 10, okay, you will get a string. We won't get what we want because in arithmetic operations, it only deals with numbers. So this line won't run, okay? This won't run because the mass is in a string form, even though you entered 10, but we said this input, okay? This input changes everything to string. Okay, so this is a string, this is a number. So this calculation wouldn't even work. So what we need to do is to change the string to an integer. Okay, And we said to change something to an integer, we do int, then the value. So with this one, we need to wrap it inside int bracket open bracket close. Do we get this line? Okay, since this is int, this is a number, it's in int, the weight will also be int. Okay, so the weight is int here. But let's check this one. This is not int, it's a string. Okay, so we said if you want to combine any variable or do any calculations on values, they should be of the same type. That's what we said last week. Okay, so this is a string, this is int, this is a string. So this line won't also run. So what we need to do is just convert the weight to a string so that all of them will be string. So this will be string, this will be string, this will be string. And we said to do that, to convert something to string, we do str bracket open bracket close. So we put this one str bracket open bracket close, this one, then we can run the code. Okay, so when we run the code, it's asking us what is your mass in kg. So we said, let's say 56. So if you press enter, it has given us your weight. Okay, so your weight is this. So let me save this, let me rerun it. The weight of user. Okay, so what is your mass? 56. So your weight is 56 kg. Okay, so that's here. So to separate this one, it just, this string, you just bring space here, you save, you run. So 45, have 45 kg. Please, do we understand? So this is what we talked about last week. Okay, so we have to be careful because this basic is very important. If you write your applications, if you have your data science, your data and everything, you're expecting something from the user. Okay, so anything that comes from the user, it should be of the same type as what you want to do and feedback to the user. Now let's go to today's class. Do you have any question? Okay. So if we want to
Okay.
any variable, don't include it in quotation mark. But if you want to convert it, just do str bracket open bracket close. Okay, so today's class, so one thing I also want to say is, anything that we do, okay, don't try to go beyond us, because coding, how it is, if you have the class today, you say, oh, understand, you go and watch another video, you go on, go on, go on. If you give you the work like this, or if a client comes to you and say, okay, do this app for me, you will find one thing. Okay. So anything that we learn, just try to practice around that side. If you want to watch different videos, if you watch the starlight, they just moved on to a different video, don't continue, just be on the same pace as you go along. All right, so let's go to today's class. All right, so with today's class, we'll create a new file. So to create a new file.
Reggie.
Yes, Collins.
Uh,
So we can actually do acceleration. Okay, acceleration equals 10. Then we delete this 10. Then we type acceleration here. Okay, and this 2 or 1. Okay, so what's your mass? 67. So you are 70 kg. Okay, so this 1, 2 also works. And this is very important. For instance, let me give you a typical example. You see, for passwords that we add in coding, we don't actually put the passwords inside the script like this. So what we do is, for instance, 10 is a password. Okay, that's an example. What we do is we try to put the password in a text file somewhere. So let's say the 10, we put the 10 somewhere, then we come to assign it to this acceleration. Then we use it inside the code. Okay, so that's a best practice to do. Always assign your values to variables. Don't just be multiplying. Like, for instance, someone can do this, and this is right. Someone can do this. Just input this, okay? Then we do that. Then you put it inside this one. So someone can just copy this, then paste it here. Okay, so you get rid of the first line. Okay, and this is correct. So to take the input, it will convert. So it will take the input. To take the input, it will convert to int, it will multiply by 10 to put inside weight, then it continues. Okay, this is not the best practice. Okay, so that's that. So let's move on to today's class. So just assignments. So to create
Martha, please, I have a question.
okay, you can ask the question. Okay, so for today's class, we'll create a new file. Just right click on the folder name, go to Python, then we name it today. Today's class. All right, so the first thing that we will look at is the if statement. So let's talk about the if statement. So instead in Python to comment, you bring hash like this, then so we'll talk about if statement. So that means if the code run, it wouldn't run anything like this, okay? So it really makes your code readable. All right, so there's a syntax for the if statement. So you bring if space, then your value, okay? So let's say your value like let's say your mass is greater than, let's say 40. Okay, so this is how you write the if statement. Okay, so let me explain the if statement. Why do we use the if statement? Okay, for instance, with the if statement, I will show you a code I have here. We use it a lot. Almost all programming languages have this if statement. Because, for instance, let me show you this code. I'm opening this. Okay, so this is the basic. I'm opening the account. Okay. Okay, so this is an API for login. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, you see, we have the if statement here. So what I'm trying to do is, the first thing I do is I check whether you have an email in the database. So if you have an email in the database, what we need to do is I also go ahead to check. Okay, so this is it. So I go ahead to check whether you have, if you have an email in the system, then I will check whether you have your password that you entered matches with what we have in the database. But if your email is not in the system, then I'll tell you you don't have any account with us. Okay, so that's an example. And also, if you enter your email address and you're on the system, I also do another if statement here. If your password matches, okay, so if your password and your email matches, it means I have to log you in, or I have to show you the main page. If it doesn't exist, then I have to tell you your password is wrong. So this is a typical example. So with if statement is very important. We use it in login, sign up, almost any page. So that's just an example. But with this syntax that I've shown you is JavaScript. So with JavaScript, that's how you write it. So I said with the programming language, just get the basis, just get something like we have the if statement, we have for loop, we have variables and everything. And if you move on to any programming language, it wouldn't be a problem for you. All right, so where is the file we are working with? Okay, so that's how we write the if statement. Okay, so with the if statement, you write it if, let's say, mass is greater than 40, then you bring a colon. Okay, so after you bring a colon, you press enter. Have you seen PyCharm? Because PyCharm uses IntelliSense. Okay, it has indented the next line. What it means is anything that's under the if statement. Okay, if it's indented, if only it's indented, it's for the if statement. This is what I mean. If I do something like this, I do something like this, all these values are for the if statement because this is the parent. Okay, so that's how Python distinguishes between a parent and a child or children. Okay, so the first one is always the parent. So the first one always runs. Okay, or the one on the far left always run, and any other thing, this one will run based on this condition or based on whatever. All right, so let's do something small here. Okay, so we do, let's say mass is equal to 30 or 60. Then we use if statement. So we say if your mass is greater than, let's say, 70, okay, what we need to tell the user is you are big or you are fat. So to type that, if you want to tell something to the user, we say we use print. So print bracket open bracket close, you are fat. Okay, but we said with the if statement, the last thing that comes is what? Colon. Okay, colon. So let's run this and see whether it will run. What? So let me run it again. Go to run. I'll choose today's class. I'll run. Okay. So you see nothing happened. Okay. Nothing happened because with the if statement, okay, anything inside the if statement will run when this condition is true. When this condition is true. For Python, for instance, anything inside if statement is either true or false. Okay, so even though I've written mass is greater than 70, it will evaluate to true or false, just one of them. Okay, so that's one thing you have to take note of. So it means the mass is greater than 70. Let's check. 60, is it greater than 70? No, so it's false. So what it means is anything inside the if statement will not run. Please, are you okay? All right, so let's change this one to, let's say, 80 and see whether this one will print, because this statement is true. We said anything inside the if statement runs when the condition is true. All right, so it has given us the statement that we are fat or you are fat. Okay, so let's make this one interactive. With the 80, let's not make it static. We've learned input. So let's do something like mass is equal to input, enter your mass. Okay, so let's run it and see how it works. So as you enter your mass, I'll enter, let's see, 89. Then I press enter. All right, do you understand why it didn't run? Please, can someone explain? We've done it. Okay, so the reason why it didn't run was we said with input, anything it takes is in string. Okay, so string. So anything input takes is string. Okay, then it's trying to compare. We see for comparison, it's trying to compare with what? An integer, and this is a string, so it will not work. We said in Python, anything that you want to do, they should be of the same type. So what we need to do is just convert this one to an integer. One way we can do that is just say, let's say, use me is equal to integer of what? Mass. Okay, so that means we wouldn't call mass here, we call this use me. Okay, so let's try to run and see. Enter your mass 67. Okay, so it has run. Let's run it again. Enter your weight 89, 90. You are fat. Okay, because this statement is true. Or another way you can do that is just clear this. Just use this mass here. Then we just have to convert the mass to an int. Okay. So when you run, enter your mass 89, you run, you are fat. Okay. So it's working now. Okay. But one thing you also have to note is anything that you're expecting from the user, you have to be careful.